Leave the rotten towns of your fathers, the poison wells and blood-stained streets. Enter now the sweet forest. Yeshua disappeared for 20 years before re-emerging to contemporary eye. Rumors say he went east, lulled by mystery and the myth of megalithic temples. I left too, straddling contemptuous winds, chasing the elusive sun to ocean horizon, where it would leave me, defeated, with only Venus night as comfort to assess new disposition. We must all leave at least once to understand condition. There are whole towns in the West full of those that have escaped. I was once paid to snowboard skyscraper mountains from sunrise to sunset every day in a place where internationals vacation. Public opinion thinks enlightenment contained only in books, laws asserted communally and backed by certifiable teachers. The Native Americans went to the desert vast in religion, humble for communion, seeking vision unique to circumstance. The Grand Palace didn't understand and laughed at the young prince when he renounced his crown, dropping imperial raiment, turning back on myriad, paid to be friendly lovers of royalty. Seeking answers, he offered crown jewels radiant in cascading glow to beggars fallen to destitution, exclaiming to world, "Take all that I have which conspires mine. When nothing remains for things to snatch, there you will find me, dressed in nakedness, seeking that which this world cannot offer." Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Garcia. This is Fallen Angels TV, and it's another Sabbath broadcast, the 17th of May, 2014, as we move on into spring. And I hope that wherever you are, that you are enthralled by the awesome beauty that is nature. I know that outside of my house, I have these 6-year-old climbing tree roses that are just in full bloom with many myriads of red, beautifully deep velvet roses. And the smell is just intoxicating. Just walking by them, you can smell the fragrance wafting in the air, and it's such a beautiful time of year. I love the spring and watching all of the various flowers in bloom, and just watching everything grow. And with all the birds, I saw just this week my first hummingbird. We feed the hummingbirds as well as the other birds. I put out these black sunflower seeds, and so there's an abundance of yellow finches and red cardinals and the peace doves and many different birds, red-winged blackbirds and brown thrushes, just a bunch of families of birds. And I've also got some birdhouses up for the bluebirds, and they have been coming for a number of years now, and they have 2 different clusters of children over the course of the spring. They've already had their first clutch, but all birds they trust us so completely now, because I've been feeding them for quite a long time, and they're used to us, and I can be just right beside the bird feeders, and they will still come and eat, and they have no problem at all in getting real close to us. That's a beautiful thing, and so consider that all to be a blessing. I love, just sharing time with nature and being out in the elements, the feel of the sunshine. And today was a partially cloudy day, but lot of space for sunshine, and there's a cool breeze, and so a beautiful spring day. And so wherever you may be, I hope that you are also taking a few moments, at least 15, 20 minutes in each of your days, to spend some time just feeling the awesome grasp of the envelopment of nature surrounding us. And for me, that's where I see the Creator in all things as well. And so, I find the Creator in the creation, and I'm just humbled by the magnificent beauty available to us in each moment. And no matter where you are, I know a lot of people think that they live in a place where there's not a lot of beauty available to them, and still it's the same sun raining down sunshine on us. No matter where you are, we still are encompassed by the atmosphere and the clouds streaming across from west to east, and the deep velvet blue. There's beauty everywhere, and it doesn't matter, in my opinion, where you are. That if you open yourself to being receptive, that essentially you can find beauty everywhere. I know some places are more difficult than others, absolutely, but still, you can find beauty in all things. I just want to thank all of you for joining me today, and for taking the time to fellowship with us, and those of you that have joined us in dialogue on the Fallen Angels TV website, and that do share different stories. There have been some interesting things that happen. I just posted recently on the main page of the website a story about a satyr, basically a satyr, what the ancients called a satyr, which was a half man, half goat type being. We know that Pan, or whom the Greeks called Pan, was one of these beings, and that he was supposedly had a very lustful nature, and that tried to conceive with human women, those that were willing, and then also those that were unwilling. That some of the Bacchian and Dionysian festivals that they held during some of these times, where the people would get drunk and wanton in their frivolous nature, and go out into the woods and seek and conspire to take place and be part in huge orgies, and that often these orgies would also involve animals and creatures, hybrid creatures, such as Pan, this half man, half goat. But the reason I mention this is because supposedly somewhere, and I forget exactly where, maybe it was Ohio, but there is an article as well as a video connected to this recent sighting of this particular creature. And the story, the folklore for this particular area mentions how this particular being, this creature, which has been cited many times by many different people, how it lives under the bridge. And so, very interesting. Good to see you, Ricky. Glad that you could join us today, brother. It's always a blessing to have you in chat. And I thank all of you, for coming out and supporting the show. I'll go ahead and make mention of some of you that are in the chat room: Lydia and Jackie, Stephanie, Math. Some of the names I can't see real clearly. Night Watchman and Off Peace 333. Joan, sister, I still gotta give you a call, and I'll try to do that this week. Right, Son of Yahweh, Ted, and Watcher Ruth, my friend Dolores from Oregon. Thank all of you and all the guests that are remaining anonymous, and my friend Jose. And if I fail to mention anybody, I appreciate all of you. There are others that are coming in. FB, we appreciate all of you and taking the time to join us. But I did want to go ahead and make mention that I did my first show with the Prophecy Club on my fourth book, Lucifer, Father of Cain. Basically, Stan and I spent about an hour just talking about different topics and the different books that I've written. And he was very hesitant initially when he learned about the whole concept for my fourth book, but he was willing to allow me to speak about it, and he certainly wasn't a believer in this, and he was quite shocked that that this was a revelation that the Father and Son had shared with me, and that that I certainly believed and absolutely consider it to be biblical. And so he thought that would definitely be an interesting topic for discussion, and so we focused on it for what would be the first 30-minute segment, because he does his radio shows in 30-minute segments. And in the process of speaking about this over that, I presented my case in such a persuasive and biblically backed way that he felt compelled to look again at the Word, because he knows the Scriptures very well, and he saw with new eyes about the things that I was speaking about, and he feels certain now of the possibility of this as being truth. And so I thought that was a huge blessing, and he was compelled and very interested once he learned about the other work that I've done. Awaken to the New World Order, my fifth book, my sixth book, Sons of God, Who We Are and Why We're Here, and my newest, seventh, Skyfall, The Angels of Destiny. He wanted to bring me back for other shows to talk about other topics, the war in heaven, the prior times, the connections, as far as the seed of Cain, the seed of the serpent, to the New World Order, and as to what Christ was speaking about with the separation, the harvest, the wheat and the tares, as well as the goat and the sheep. And so I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I'm not as certain as to when the show will air. He wanted me to provide a number of books, and so we're looking into doing a separate publication as far as providing Lucifer, Father of Cain, and getting it in a different in a sizable amount so that I can provide them to him for to his listening audience and those that follow the Prophecy Club, of which he has many people, and he seems to think that people absolutely being interested in this particular topic, especially in the way that I have presented it and shared it, because again, it is biblically endorsed, and it is one of those secrets that Christ has said has been hidden since the foundation of the world. And even for he having been a pastor for a very long time now, and having been well versed and well researched in the King James Version of the Bible and in the Gospel, specifically the Old and the New Testament, this was still new to him, and so I'm very grateful that that he allowed me the opportunity, and that even though he was hesitant as far as the particular the material, once and this happened for a lot of us, that once you study it in depth and once you get over the stigmatism that is associated with it as revelation, and you do enough homework, it seems absolutely impossible to deny. And this is my opinion. And so this is some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be covering, but specifically from what Christ was referring to and talking about in the New Testament. That's where the focus is going to be today when talking about what we're going to be covering. But I will be doing other shows with him, and he seems to think that that the people that follow his work and that listen to his shows will be greatly intrigued, to say the least, as far as this particular topic, because he asked me, when we began, because a lot of the people that follow his shows and that have studied his work over the years, they're very well versed in all the things as far as the fallen angels, the Nephilim, the Masons, and the connections with New World Order, 9/11, the inside job, government terrorism, FEMA, the FEMA camps, martial law, all these different things. And so he asked me what I spoke on or what I taught that was unique and that was interesting. And so this absolutely was one of those things. And then the other things as far as what I cover with the prior times and connecting the Nakash and the beguilement of Eve to the feathered serpent and the worship of the feathered serpent worldwide, and also my focus on our first estate and our having been the Son of God, the connections with Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, where the word of the Lord went to Jeremiah, told him that he knew him before he ever entered into the womb of his mother, and that he had foreordained him to be a prophet unto the nations. Our first estate, our pre-existence, predestination, and our election, and how this also ties into Jacob I favored and Esau I hated. Those kind of things also intrigued him. And how it would not intrigue you is beyond me, because as I have stated in other shows and in the work that I've done, there are so many pastors and preachers and ministers and people that are teaching about the gospel and that are authorities and that have gone through seminary, that have spent, that have gotten their PhD degrees in the study of the Old and New Testament, that are Christian theologians, that are have written dissertations on particular aspects of the Old or the New Testament, that have read hundreds, even thousands of books that are specifically topic on Christian ideas, but that have no idea as to there being two different bloodlines, that what had happened in the garden, that was connected to Cain being a son of the devil, and that would be why he was the first murderer and liar and deceiver, and why he killed his half-brother Abel, and how his line and lineage is separated from that of Adam and Seth, that you find the line of Cain mentioned in Genesis chapter 4, and then Adam's line in Genesis chapter 5, and why it is in Luke chapter 3, verse 23 through on, and that Christ, in mentioning his lineage and the patriarchs that he was born from, beginning with Adam, how Cain is left out and not mentioned within that genealogical line. All these things would not make sense unless you have discernment on this particular topic. And then the other things, as far as Ephesians chapter 1, where Christ speaks about us as having been predestinated, and that he knew us even before the foundations of this world. These are huge topics, huge issues, which all of these church people that have been given authority through the church, even bishops and archbishops and cardinals, and none of them are teaching about these topics. Even if they know about them, they are still not sharing them in any kind of a way. Because we know that a lot of the secret societies and those that are part of the Masons, they know about Cain, they know who their father is, and they, link themselves to that particular revelation. And it's one of those secrets which they hoard, and that they do not share, that only their groups and their people, and only at the higher levels, are privy to such information. And so, it was it's been difficult for me over the years, because I've been attacked and antagonized and harassed about these things. But it certainly has been a lot easier since I've found all of you and have fellowship with all of you. Many of you have been confirming witness for me as to the truth. Because, initially when there was so much harassment and there was so many people coming out against me, and not that I had much of a reputation anyways, but for people to say that my credibility had been shot out or anything of that nature, I had wondered as to was I teaching the right things? Because I certainly felt that these revelations were absolutely biblical, and that these were things that the Father and Son wanted me to share with the world. I just had no idea as to what kind of stigmatism that would be associated to sharing this openly and publicly in the way that I have. And so, the even after I decided to go public with all this, and I wrote my fourth book, Lucifer, Father of Cain, my Father led me to Revelation. I've told all of you about having been able to confirm this even through the Bible codes. Okay, I just got a message from Ted, and I will check out the email. But I appreciate that, and we'll see. Anyways, and so I wanted to speak about some of these things today, and I will talk about that. Also, I want you to know that in the hard copies of Lucifer, Father of Cain that I've just recently made available to everyone, that it has a new chapter added to it, and it speaks about how it was that I was led to this particular Bible code, and how it was that it confirms this revelation on Cain being a son of the serpent, and that even in that Bible code I was able to find Esau and many other things like trees, the tree, which represents Satan, the tares, seed, sun, even the association as far as death, these kind of things. And so if you're interested in confirming that and looking at that for yourself, you can go to a website called BibleCodeWisdom.com. And if you type in these particular words, let me pull it up real quick. But if you type in these words that I'm going to give you, you'll be able to confirm what I'm talking about. And for a lot of people, I know that there are a lot of people that are still on the fence as far as accepting this as truth or not. And so I'm gonna post this link in the chat room, and then I'm gonna give you the specific words so that you can confirm this for yourself. All right. Okay. I thought I had it saved in there, but it seems that I don't. So what I'm going to do is just pull up this particular where I have it written in my book, and I'll share that with you really quick, because it's an interesting piece of information, and it was the way that I felt that the Father and the Son were confirming to me again that this was very relevant. And another thing that was really interesting about finding this particular Bible code, also make mention to all of you, a lot of people have been interested in the Bible code, but because you do not know Hebrew, in which I don't myself know Hebrew, it has been difficult to convert Hebrew words into English and to be able to study them. But this particular Bible code wisdom, this website and this software, which you don't have to download anything, you can search directly online. It gives you the ability to search in English, and you don't have to know how to translate from Hebrew to English or English to Hebrew. And I don't know how they did that, or the particulars of the idiosyncrasies connected to all of that, but they have it figured out and give you the capacity to study and to search in English, which is, for those of us that can't speak Hebrew and don't know how to read in that language, it's a huge blessing. And I'm not any kind of an expert or pro at Bible code or software. This was actually the first code I ever had found and actually had ever sought for. But it does give us the ability. And it's interesting. I've since found other Bible codes, some that are tied to, as far as World War III and Obama. I've also found codes on like the strong delusion and UFOs and things of that nature. But anyways, in the search bar you can type these particular words: Cain, Cain, devil, devil, seed, seed, tree, tree, tare, Esau, esau, son, son, war, war, fruit, fruit, goat, goat, and death, death. Now, if I'm correct, it won't allow you to search all of these words at once. It limits you in certain way. But you will find that all of these words are found in the same matrices. And that when I search for goat, Esau, Cain, devil, son, seed, fruit, tree, and tear, that not only was it confirmed once, but it was confirmed 7 times. There are actually 7 matrices in the Bible code that are linked to this as revelation. And for those of you that know about not numerology per se, but how 7 is a very significant, because it denotes completion, as far as like the colors of the rainbow, that there are 7 colors that make the spectrum of the rainbow and that unite to be white light, and that there are 7 notes in the musical scale, things of that nature. That if you were interested, you can look up the meaning of 7. There's a lot of very profound connections to 7, and so in my mind, the fact that this matrix is found 7 times within the word, and that it begins with the first matrix you find overlaid in Genesis chapter 3, which speaks about the beguilement of Eve and how she became impregnated with Cain, her beguilement by the serpent, whom we know as the Nakash, and that the Nakash is a representation of Lucifer, or Satan the adversary, or what the Targums call Samael, the angel of death, and that that's the chapter where her eating of this particular fruit led to her being pregnant with Cain is just further confirmation to me that the Bible code is trying to tell you how important this knowledge and this information is. And then some of the other, but it begins with the first matrix is overlaid, as I said in Genesis chapter 3. There are other chapters where you will find it overlaid as well. But it ends, the last matrix is overlaid in Ephesians chapter 6. How interesting, huh? That the last matrix would be linked into that particular passage where it's about the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness, wickedness in high places, and that that is again referring to the fallen angels. And so very, very interesting that this was the way that the Father had confirmed to me that this was absolutely a revelation that has been held secret, as Christ said in Matthew chapter 13. He said, "I will utter things that have been kept secret since the foundations of the world." And this is one of those. And anyways, so we're going to actually cover some of that Matthew chapter 13 here in just a minute. But I did want to share that with you, and you can confirm this for yourself. Those of you that have just now joined us, I've been speaking about BibleCodeWisdom.com. That if you want to pull up for yourself what I've been speaking about as far as how the Father confirmed this information to me when I was kind of second guessing myself as to whether, what I was teaching was truthful, because I don't want to deceive anybody. And I don't want to, make up anything. I certainly don't want to make up anything. And I don't want to go against what the Bible says and what the Bible teaches itself. And so, again, go to BibleCodeWisdom.com, and then you can search in the keyword search bar, goat, Esau, Cain, devil, son, seed, fruit, tree, and tear. And all of these particular keywords are specific to the parable of the garden, as far and also to the parable of the wheat and the tares that Christ speaks about in Matthew chapter 13. And also the goat and the sheep. And also that even though Esau was born of the seed of the woman, that because he sold his birthright and because he was a rebel and an interloper, and one of those that in his first estate had been part of those that joined Lucifer in rebellion, that's why he was hated before he was even when he was a babe and had not yet even been born into the world to commit sin and to have that kind of a harsh sentence levied upon him. All those things, again, are tied to our pre-existence and our predestination, how some are have been of the the rebel angels and of that particular side. All right, so continuing, we're going to talk about and pick it up with Matthew chapter 13. And specifically, we'll begin with verse 24. Even though the whole chapter is tied to this as revelation, and that comments on this in varying different ways. But we're going to focus on just a couple of different parables here, and then a couple other passages where Christ is speaking to the Pharisees, and I know you are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me. You are of your father, the devil. Those kind of things. All right. Matthew chapter 13, verse 24 says this: The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. See, this particular passage, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. This enemy is reference to Lucifer, Satan the adversary, Samael the angel of death, and that he is the father of the tares, and that it's not just symbolic, but that Satan absolutely has his own bloodline and lineage upon this planet, and that he has children that have been born to him. All right, continuing. And so the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. And so this particular reference about the garden and about the enemy sowing the tares, this is also about the Second World Age and about the enmity that began with Eve being the mother of all living, that her firstborn son Cain is a tare and a representation of the seed of the serpent, and that Abel is the wheat and representation of the seed of the woman. And because Abel was the first to be murdered and the first one to succumb to death after the Second World Age, that would be why Seth was the replacement for Abel, and why it is that it speaks about this in Genesis chapter 5, especially in the Targums, about how Seth has the similitude and the likeness of Adam, and that he was the replacement for Abel. And also, I can read part of that. It says, for those of you that don't know, and I don't have it before me right now, but it also talks about how Cain and the children of Cain, how they are not genealogized in the lineage and the generations of Adam. And after I finish this, I'll reference that as well. Let me check that real quick. I can actually pull it up real quick. Okay, yeah, this is what it says in the Targums real quick. And Adam lived 130 years, and he begat Sheth, who had the likeness of his image and of his similitude. For before had Hava born Cain, who was not like to him, and Abel was killed by his hand. And Cain was cast out, neither is his seed genealogized in the book of the genealogy of Adam. But afterwards was one born like him, and he called his name Sheth. That's Genesis chapter 5 in the Targums. All right, continuing. Verse 36 of Matthew chapter 13, because this is where Christ, his disciples, what would be the apostles, came to him and asked him specifically to tell them about the parable of the field. And whereas Christ had been speaking to the multitudes in parable form, he was now going to tell his disciples exactly what he meant and what he was referring to. So, then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. So there you have it, plain as day. Continuing, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. Here, Christ is specifically telling you that the enemy that in the parable that we spoke on prior to this, where it said the enemy, while men slept, the enemy had snuck into the garden and sowed the tares. He's telling you that that enemy is the devil, and that the devil is the one that birthed the tares. All right, continuing. The tares of the children of the wicked one, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. So here, Christ is tying together the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent to the harvest and judgment and the day of the Lord. As therefore the tares are gathered together and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. So this is also, he's telling you that the harvest and the separation of the goat and the sheep, the wheat and the tares, will be at the end of this world, which will be on the day of the Lord, when the last trump on the last day sounds, and that the angels will be sent forth to gather the tares together for the fire, and also the wheat for a return to their first estate and to life in paradise. Goodness, this show is already going by so quick. If you have questions, okay, we do have a question. Dolores is asking me, Jazz would like to know if all of the fallen angels came into flesh. That's a really good question. And the answer is no, not all of them. Now, we do have some that have taken on flesh, and that we have some that are moving through flesh and possessing flesh. And then you have some of the fallen angels, some of the rebel angels. Now, and when I'm talking about the rebel angels, I'm talking about the first incursion. The 1/3 of the angels of the Most High that joined Lucifer in rebellion and that were cast out on the second day. These are those that I'm specifically speaking about. Now, the water angels that fell, the 200 that fell during the time of Yared, the time of Enoch's father, all of them came into the flesh. That they were given and transformed into male bodies of flesh, and that is why they were able to copulate with the daughters of Cain. And the result of that copulation was that they were able to birth the giants, whom we know as the men of renown. But the rebel angels, initially, the first group that fell, that were kicked out of the heavens, not all of them have taken on flesh form. Lucifer, he did possess and took on the form of the Nakash in order to beguile Eve and to impregnate her with Cain. And it also mentions in Ezekiel chapter 28, also Isaiah chapter 14, that he would take on the form of a man, and that he would die the death of a man. So he is, he's able to present himself even as an angel of light, and that he can take on physical flesh form. And that the other rebel angels also have this capacity and have this ability, but they are interdimensional and spiritual beings, and so they can take on other various forms, and so they can present themselves one way or the other, and that these are those particular beings that we refer to as vampires, because they are cycling through flesh, and that a lot of times they take over the bodies of different world leaders, of different, even musicians and different individuals as far as the Illuminati. They present themselves as offering in ritual, and that it will be connected to blood sacrifice, sometimes cannibalism, the drinking of blood, just as it says in the Emerald Tablets of Thought, in the specifically tablet number 8, where it says that they can make their presence known when the blood is offered, and that they took over the councils of humanity, and specifically the bodies, and are able to possess the bodies of these ruling elite, and that they've done this over hundreds and thousands of years. But they are not tied to, they can leave bodies, leave flesh form. Oh, and Joan Peace 333 says that we are fallen angels in flesh as well. And that's absolutely right. We are sons of God that find ourselves now in fallen flesh form. And that when I talk about that we're fallen angels in flesh, we are angels that are fallen, but we are not like the rebel angels. At least most of us are not like the rebel angels, because the rebel angels, have part in salvation. They are possessing human bodies like us. They are not like us. There's a distinction. They are like what Daniel refers to in chapter 2. They will mingle. They try to mingle with the flesh of humanity. That's the difference. Okay, really good question. All right, going back to a couple more passages where Christ is referring to and speaking about this that we are talking about, the serpent seed, and the connections to the New World Order. Because the serpent seed had connections to the Pharisees and the Sadducees during the time of Christ. And that you will find that throughout history, they are the ones that have been the authorities of even now the official church, like the popes and the cardinals and these pedophilic priests. And even to the blood royal elites, with Queen Elizabeth, and they're supposedly being the head of the Church of England, and even these, like the Mahdi of Islam, and the different Freemasonic and high-level Masons, and these different secret societal groups. These are all these church authorities and political authorities and even pop culture authorities with musicians and different artists and how they give themselves over to being possessed by these particular beings. It's the same thing. All right, so reference. Christ said, I know that you are Abraham's seed, yet you seek to kill me, because my word finds no place in you. I say the things which I have seen with my Father, and you also do the things which you have seen with your father. They answered him, Our father is Abraham. And Jesus said to them, If you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. Now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. Abraham didn't do this. You do the works of your father. They said to him, We were not born sexual immorality. We have one Father, God. Therefore Jesus said to them, If God were your Father, you would love me, for I came out and have come from God. For I haven't come of myself, but He sent me. Why don't you understand my speech? Because you can't hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and doesn't stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks on his own, for he is a liar and its father. But because I tell you the truth, you don't believe me? Which of you convicts me of sin? If I tell you the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. For this cause you don't hear, because you are not of God. So the connections to Cain here, he's saying that you are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. Remember when Cain, had killed his brother, or before he even killed his brother, the father went to him and said that if you are not careful, you are going to do the desires of your father, and you're going to follow his will. He was speaking about Satan because he knew that Cain had the inclination of the devil within him. And so here we see Christ saying he was a murderer from the beginning. Well, who was that murderer? Cain. Cain was that murderer. He killed his brother, his half-brother Abel. And so here Christ is tying the devil to Cain because he knows that Cain was of his father, the devil, just like the Pharisees and those bloodlines which were seeking to murder him. All right, continuing. I want to cover John chapter 3. It says this: Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witnesses unto yourselves, that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets, and wise men, and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill, and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel, there again the connections with Cain, unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. So Christ is also saying in this particular passage how he sent many prophets unto them over the generations, even the Old Testament prophets. And this again shows and verifies to you, just as it said, before Abraham was, I was, or I am. Christ is telling the Pharisees and the Sadducees that he pre-existed before, even they and all of the other patriarchs and all of the prophets that had come prior, that he pre-existed all of them, and that they were all representatives that he had sent. Just as it said in Jeremiah, I have foreordained you to be a prophet unto the nations. And that Christ is telling them, connecting them to Cain as being the murderer of Abel, and that they were the ones also, and their fathers, and their bloodline, and their lineage, the seed of the serpent, that they have always been at war with the sons of Adam, the sons of Seth, and that they were responsible for many murderers. And that's Matthew chapter 23. Sorry. But anyways, if you read full in John chapter 3 as well, where it references not as Cain, who was of that wicked one and slew his brother, and wherefore he slew him? Because his own works were evil, and his brother's righteous. But if you look at the full context of John chapter 3, which, let me pull that up real quick. It also gives reference to what I'm speaking about. I'm going to pull that up. All right. I'm going to skip down just a little bit. I'm looking for what I want to touch upon. Give me just a minute here. All right. And if you have any questions on this, put them in the chat room, and I'll take a look there in just a minute. And because I know, sometimes some of this can get confusing, especially for those that are new to this information. But once you come to this discernment, you will find so many scriptures, so many passages that are tied to this as revelation. All right, 1 John chapter 3. I'm going to just go ahead and read the first 12 verses before it. It says, Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. There again, here's reference to our being the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. And ye know that he was manifested to take away our sins, and in him is no sin. Whosoever abideth in him sinneth not. Whosoever sinneth hath not seen him, neither hath known him. Little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous. He that committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. The connection with Cain again. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. Whosoever is born of God doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin, because he is born of God. In this the children of God are manifest, and the children of the devil. Whosoever doeth not righteousness is not of God, neither he that loveth not his brother. For this is the message that ye have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another, not as Cain was of that wicked one, and slew his brother. And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil, and his brother's righteous. And we can go on and on. But these above passages are reference to our being the sons of God, and that when we come into flesh form, we are given this choice. We are to redetermine our allegiance one way or the other, to follow the broad path of destruction or the narrow way which leads to life and a return to paradise, salvation, and our eternal inheritance. And again, where it talks about he that committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. The beguilement of Eve that caused the fall of humanity, that was the sin of the devil, as well as his not wanting to serve and Christ, and that the not wanting to serve and to be as God himself. That was when iniquity was found in him. That was his initial sin. That was when he was cast out of the upper heavens, and then he led 1/3 of the angels astray. And then his beguilement of Eve, that was also another sin that ties to the beginning. And so this whole reference in 1 John chapter 3 is basically repeating the story of our being the sons of God, our incarnating into flesh form, and our coming into this world and being given a chance to follow the broad path or the narrow way. And depending on, because even if we are born of the seed of the woman, much like Ishmael and much like Esau, but that if you do not do the works and you do not follow the path of righteousness, follow the commandments, that you will be excluded from that salvation and that birthright. It's like Esau giving up his birthright. And that even those that are born into the serpent line, in the serpent lineage, like Rahab and Ruth, and even in this modern world, we have people like John Todd, people like even Nicholas DeVere, other high-level illuminists. I forget her name. Arizona Wilder, Kathy O'Brien, different individuals that were born into Illuminati bloodlines, even Carolyn Hamlet, but that excluded and gave up their satanic birthright, and that embraced Christ and the salvation that he extended to all people. They were grafted in. Their names are now in the book of life. And so it works both ways, and we have free will choice to determine, but that we have to act. You cannot just sit on the sidelines anymore. Whereas in the first world age, when we were, being lukewarm meant that we would be given another chance, and that chance would be are incarnating as the sons of God into flesh form and being in physical embodiment, you can't be lukewarm in this second world age, because those that make no choice, you will be spewed out. It says he will spew you out, and that you will have no part with the elect and the righteous, that you will be counted among the wicked. And so you have to come to remembrance, and you have to do the works. Remember from whence thou art fallen, and do the works. And so, really, once you understand the full picture and what Christ is speaking about, and also what is written about in the Old Testament, you see this war that began with the separation of light and darkness, and Lucifer's rebellion, and 1/3 of the angels of the Most High joining him in this rebellion, that the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, that it's an ongoing expansion of the war in heaven, and that the second world age, that we are, that we are the sons of God incarnated into flesh form now, and that what we do, how we act and behave, what we even think and intend with our thoughts, the way we are, all those things are determining our allegiance. And whether we are following the broad path or the narrow way, those things are determining whether we will be counted as among the elect and with the righteous, whether we are the wise virgins or the foolish ones, whether you are going to be a goat or a sheep, a wheat or a tare. It's not just about blood anymore. It's about what you do with your free will and how you do make a priority of the kingdom and work for the salvation of others, and helping them to come to remembrance and understand the gospel in a way they may not have understood prior. Even with, again, the pastors and these preachers and these ministers. How many of you have gone to your pastors and asked them about these things and given them a chance? I know that most of them already think they know better, and that this is heresy, and that this is blasphemy, and that and many of them will count you as an usurper, call you a heretic, just as done me. But at least we can give them the choice, give them the chance, plant seeds. And I know for those that, have spent a lifetime studying the Word, that think they already know better and different, that it is so hard and the most difficult thing for them to empty themselves and to open themselves to embracing new possibility. But still, we should at least try. And I know for those that, even those that are involved in the New Age and that have not studied these things, and especially those that have probably never even read the gospel and never even studied the Bible, that it's easier for you to present this information to them, and that they are more readily apt to embrace it, and that they don't have to unlearn everything that they've built their foundation, all the things that they think as truth. It's a lot easier for them because they are not full. is so much that they have to give up everything they believe as truth, everything that they thought they knew and learned. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to help people to come to remembrance and to help teach them about what the gospel really says, and to share revelation with them, which would help them to, once they read the word, that they can make connections, and that they can come to discernment on these and other things that we have been speaking about. The predestination, pre-existence, many of these things are the secrets that not many people know about. And so you are the teachers, you are the wisdom keepers, you are the holders of the secrets, and you are the ones that the Father and the Son make mention of, like in Joel chapter 2, where it says that, that the Spirit will be poured out on flesh, and the men and women will see visions and receive dreams. You are they. You are the ones that people are going to be looking to for understanding on this and so many other things. And so I ask you to, not throw pearls before swine. Of course not. Don't waste your time with those that you have to argue with to try to get them to listen. We're not here to, waste time in that way. But for those that are ready, for those that want this information, that are seeking these revelations, absolutely do what you can to help them. And anyways, well, we've run out of time, so I'm just going to ask the Father and the Son to bless all of you in discernment and to continue to lead you to truth and to give you the words that you need to help others in coming to remembrance and revelation for themselves. May the Father and the Son bless all of you, protect you, keep you in His graces, and watch over your loved ones and your family members, your children, your spouses, even your animals, and all of those that are seeking you. May you be led to the truth and come to discernment on all these things. God bless all. Till Wednesday, join me on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio B, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Until then, may you all be blessed. Talk to you soon. Love you all.